All right, hi everyone. I'm Chad Blevins. I work on the Maps team at Meta, and we are currently making a big push to improve pedestrian data in a number of major cities. And I just wanted to take this time, kind of walk you through that process, what it looks like, um, and how we're all kind of working together to help us all achieve our goals with improving pedestrian data. So yeah, a question we get a lot is, you know, Meta uses Maps, and yes, we do have a Maps team. We do use Maps. A number of our applications have maps on them, and those are maps that we actually create ourselves. It's not something that we source from a vendor. We use OpenStreetMap as a big source of the map data that we use, and we create our own map every month. We run it through a series of checks and push that map out through a number of our products. Um, and we believe in open, available map data, and we realize that this has the potential to really push it to the next level. When you're creating things in the open, everyone can contribute. The more data that you have, the more detailed those maps are, the more cooler and cooler things you're going to be able to do with them in time. So how do we build maps? And this is a very basic diagram of kind of our process. And I've built maps throughout my career, and it's pretty much a very similar process. It's not easy, as I'm sure most of you know. It's very time consuming, it's very detail oriented, but we'll take, these are our main three buckets of data: OpenStreetMap, authoritative data, which is usually provided by like a GIS department, that the government or something like that. And then along with some machine learning data, right? So we'll take each one of those sources has a strength and a weakness. So what we try and do is take the best available from each one of those sources and then mash those together in one map. And then that's what we provide to the public through all of our apps. And we also provide it to the public for free through the Daylight distribution. So not sure if you've heard of this or are familiar with the product. You can go to daylightmap.org and check it out. But what we do is we take OpenStreetMap twice a month. We take a download of OpenStreetMap, run it through a series of quality checks, look for vandalism, look for little errors and things that shouldn't be there. We'll fix as many of those as possible automatically. Then we have a human validator team that will go through and fix some of those more nuanced errors that are in the data, and then we push that out through Daylight. So the very same map that Meta uses in all of our products is available to the public in a cleaned and easy to use version. There are companies out there like Snap and MapTyler and others they've built businesses that rely on this clean version of OpenStreetMap. But don't get too excited, because Daylight will be deprecated sometime this year and replaced with Overture Maps. So if you're not familiar with Overture Maps, this was a project started about 18 months ago. Collaboration between Meta, Microsoft, TomTom, and Amazon. And they have all kind of come together to bring their best available technology and knowledge to build this super map that is going to power the next generation of apps for Meta, for other companies, and hopefully more adoption by the public and regular consumers like yourselves. You can go to the overturemaps.org website and learn more. There's a lot of other partners that have come online as well, like Esri is probably one of the bigger names. So check it out. And look for some map releases. It's the same kind of Daylight process of cleaning OpenStreetMap, but it includes a lot more data sources. So pedestrian data will soon be on that list. So Meta's interest in pedestrian mapping, right? We started this initiative last fall called the Walkabout, and this is our pedestrian mapping initiative. And it really is allowing us to improve the user experience with our apps, Meta, social media platforms, connect people and people and people and places in the virtual and physical world. And we realize that in big cities and places where people live, they're often using pedestrian infrastructure to get from a friend's house to a restaurant, or to a shop or a store or something like that. So having the best quality pedestrian data um, is is something that we're trying to push for throughout the next couple of years. Um, so digging in a little bit to these data sources that are out there, right? We believe that it's best just to create everything in OpenStreetMap. That way the community can maintain it. The quality is much higher. And then you don't have to kind of look around for authoritative data sets. This is a sidewalk data set that's provided by the District of Columbia in DC. And everything in blue is a sidewalk, and it looks good at a glance, but when you look a little closer, you'll see that there's some sidewalks identified inside the FBI building, which is not a place that anyone on this call will probably be allowed to go visit or use. In the middle of the screen there, you see those sidewalks are disconnected, and that happens throughout this sidewalk database here, but in reality, they're not. On the far right, there's like a cheese grater looking sidewalk, and those are actually flower pots sitting on top of the sidewalk, but it's just not returning that signature. So for whatever purpose, this is not a very good sidewalk database for routing purposes, but maybe there's something you could pull out of it. I'm not sure. We've been, along with Tasker Center, experimenting a lot with machine learning data. Again, strengths and weaknesses, right? On the left here is Philly. You can get some great sidewalk data where you have aerial coverage, but if you don't, or it's out of date, you're going to have nothing. And then the challenge of like not only creating a routable network with machine learning data, and then also being able to push that back into OpenStreetMap is also very difficult. You can see this on the right side here. When you have like a refuge island in the middle of a crosswalk, right? The machines like, do these snap together? I'm not quite sure. And then you have a database that you try and bring into OpenStreetMap, and you'll see the other red circle there where there's overlapping building, and that happens a lot too because they were created from two different sources and trying to push them together into one. So a whole new set of challenges, but there are, the speed at which you can create data is tremendous. Quality is less so. We also use street level imagery to capture, create, and map sidewalks. And so this is an example that I pulled from a team member of mine that was doing some experimenting with automatically extracting sidewalks from imagery. And he was like, look, the computer thinks that these are sidewalks here. And like, we're all humans. We know those are concrete or rock walls on the side of a street, but it's very hard to convince a computer that those are rock walls. It really thinks they're sidewalks. So then you have, cars and view issues, and there are some challenges that come with this, but it's like taking the best of what's available and putting it together is kind of, what we found to be the most effective approach. So just talking about street level imagery a little bit, Meta owns and maintains a platform called Mapillary. I'm not sure if folks in the room are familiar with that or not, but it's completely free, open to use. It's like a crowdsourced street level image platform. So you can use the app on your smartphone and walk around and capture imagery. You can put a GoPro on top of your car and drive around and capture imagery. And once you upload everything to Mapillary, it is under a Creative Commons Share Alike 4.0 license, which is compatible with ODBL. So when you push your imagery up to Mapillary, it runs through an ingestion process, it segments out the image, and then it identifies key pieces of infrastructure that are useful to mapping. Like you can see in the picture here, there's crosswalks, there's lampposts, there's a manhole, there's a trash can, and those types of things. So you can then extract those as a JSON file, or you can open them in an OpenStreetMap editor, verify they're there in real life and start adding them to OSM. There's a number of pretty much all of the editors allow you to view street level imagery in OpenStreetMap to use that. And it's pretty much the only source of data that you're going to have that allows you to add detailed curb cuts, curb cut types. Is there sign signals, crossings, and things like that. Something that's very hard to do from satellite imagery alone. So I encourage you to check this out if you haven't already. And yes, I did mention it's compatible with OpenStreetMap, and there's lots of like organizations and some state DOTs and things that are pushing all of their imagery to Mapillary or street level imagery. It's one of those things that's not like it's not like satellite imagery where there's a lot of services out there that make it easy to create and stream through your desktop tool or something like that. So Mapillary has a plugin for ArcGIS, so you can view that imagery in ArcGIS, and also compatible with OSM editing. So see what's out there. If you're doing some mapping in OpenStreetMap and you're in a tricky place, say under an overpass or something you can't quite figure out, turn on that Mapillary layer, see what's there, and start adding more details. Just a bit on OpenStreetMap. I think these are some of I don't have Access Map on here. I'm sorry, Annette, I should. These are some of the more popular, I would say, mainstream apps that are using OpenStreetMap in some form or another. And we were talking about the license. So some of these are mashing up OpenStreetMap with other sources. Some of them use it natively, but they're all using it as a big source. So you're contributing to OSM, you're contributing to this is just a small snapshot. There's a lot of maps out there that use the data. So I'm very passionate myself of improving and maintaining the map, and I know my friends at the Tasker Center are as well. And so what we do also is we're seeking out those other people that are like us that just want to build the best map data in the open for the places where they live. And we recently signed an MOU with Open Sidewalks last month. We're working with our friends at Beta New York City in New York. They're doing a lot of mapping and image capture in Brooklyn. And we're also connected with the Youth Mappers Network. And we are working with some students on internships in key cities that we're working in as well. And those students are going through and mapping out all the pedestrian infrastructure in the cities and the places they live, which is fun. It's great for them. It's a learning experience. And we are all collectively getting better data because of it. In March, OpenStreetMap US kicked off a pedestrian working group. I'm a co-chair of that with Maggie Crawley, who's the executive director of OSM US. And then we are in the process right now of, we've had 2 meetings. The next one's going to be late May. So we're in the process of defining what those next steps are going to be. Schema development is a big one. I know the great work that y'all have done out there at Tasker Center is probably going to be a base that we work from. I can't comment on too much right now. I can maybe answer some questions if anyone's interested in, but schema development is something that's going to be a collective effort amongst all the members of that group. That's something I do know. It's not, going to be, something I'm making decisions on myself. Honestly, there's people out there that have much more knowledge on, some of the tagging infrastructure and what that means to making data more usable and effective to all. So look out for some more, I guess, like maybe improved guidance, tooling, schemas, those types of things coming out from the OpenStreetMap community in the next year. We were talking about this earlier, the Rapid Editor, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but it is a tool that it's like the ID editor, editing OpenStreetMap, but it does some of those automated checks. So if you have a crosswalk that crosses a road, it'll make sure that the tag, if it's a zebra crossing or a ladder crossing, matches what that point that crosses the road also says. So it also does some other weird things with tagging, like that we haven't quite figured out, but we are constantly taking feedback on this. There's a GitHub page you can file tickets, and your comments won't go unnoticed, and yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, so our walkabout projects, we also maintain a tasking manager, similar to the Open Sidewalks, and happy to work with anyone, create a project for your city on there. Uses Rapid as the default editor, and we can kind of work together to engage those local communities to get them. This is a shot of Brooklyn. We've got a little more progress on this, but this has been a big one we've been working on for the last 6 months, and we're getting so close to having it finished. Yes, and I can get you a link to the slides. So close to having it finished, maybe in the next couple weeks, and then we'll be going back through and validating all the data there. New York is Brooklyn's a very difficult place to map. There's a lot, if you've ever been, there's a lot going on. And that's it. So happy to answer any questions. There's my email. You can reach out to me directly. Yeah.
Help me in thanking Chad for joining us today. Thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, no problem. I look forward to working with you all in the next couple months.
Absolutely. Any questions for Chad? I saw maybe a hand. Thomas.
Is there, in the current Daylight database, or kind of the most recent publish, is there sidewalk data for Washington that's been published in that in Daylight or elsewhere?
That's a good question. I do not think so. I'm pretty sure the answer is no to that. We're in this transition right now, literally between like keeping Daylight going, getting Overture up and running, and then what's that transition looks like, where we have to sort of balance our resources. So we haven't been adding any new features to the Daylight distribution, but a lot of those are set to be included into Overture once that transition takes place. So I know there's some testing. I honestly don't know if it's in the public version or not.
Another question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any other hands up, so I'll ask one more question I happen to have. The Overture data set for points of interest is super cool and of great use to me and my team. This is Thomas Craig at WashDOT. And we are starting to use that points of interest data set for the purposes of doing accessibility analysis to understand access to, in particular things like medical facilities, social service agencies, et cetera, through transit. And just one of the quirks of that data set that we've run into, I'll note that I'm a non-technical user, so I'm like looking at the Excel export of that data set that a more technical user has provided to me. And in the categories column, there's like 1,700 or something different types of categories of places in Washington state, including like acai bowls, acai bowl vendors, acai bowl vendors. Yeah, sorry, not. I have not had an acai bowl myself, so. And I'm just curious. I'm curious whether there is. And sorry if you're not at all the right person to ask, but I'm curious whether there is an effort at the Overture Foundation to kind of like come up with some sort of super categories or some sort of process that helps to curate that information a little bit more cleanly.
Yes. Like I said, map making is hard work, and what seems like it should be easy. For example, parks are one, like, you'll have a park that'll have the name in one database. The park will have a name in another bit, so you're using like different data sources, you're conflating them all together. They're all telling you that, there's a park there. They're all giving you the same name of that park, but it's showing up. It's duplicates, right? Lots of duplicates. But places are something that Meta's bringing to the table. We have, like you said, a pretty extensive database there. So it's just keeping them clean and up to date is the tricky part. And there's really there's no easy way around it, honestly. But I'm glad you're using that data. And if you did have some particular feedback, I'd be happy to connect you with the right people on that team. Or talk with you further about it, because I do know that external feedback is something that they have a system in place for cataloging and processing and making sure that they're approaching the fixes in a systematic way.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate that, and I'll reach out by email.
Please do. Yeah, awesome.
Very good. More questions? Yes.
Matthew Winder, King County Metro. So one of the challenges, with using a new data set like this is always, we're not sure if it's going to stick around. And so we've seen that with Daylight, like that is being wound down and is being moved to something else. And so why is number one? And like, how can you provide us assurances that this will continue on?
And I think that's one of the big reasons behind why Overture was created, because Daylight was pretty much a meta. I think it was even like Facebook, really. It wasn't even Meta at the time. It was Facebook that started the Daylight distribution. And then you got whole companies that are built on top of that map service. And you do get this question, hey, what if he goes offline tomorrow? We have no assurance, we have nothing. It's about 85-ish% OpenStreetMap data. But I think the beauty of Overture, it's out now, it's actually a foundation through Linux. Linux has a history of keeping open source projects going. They have the funding, they have the resources. This is one of the only data projects under the Linux Foundation, which is interesting. There's like literally there's like hundreds or maybe even thousands of open source software projects out there. There's like less data projects on my hand. It's really just like literally a handful, and this is one of them, and it's the biggest. And bringing in all these other partners, so like Amazon's bringing all the compute power. There's like the thought that, hey, there's so much geospatial data out there nowadays that the whole like download data button is going away, and it's just going to be all this like super powered service where stuff's just coming and going almost seamlessly. Meta obviously brings a lot of our experience building Daylight and that whole pipeline to the table with some places. Microsoft has a lot of machine learning expertise, and TomTom has been this institutional, decades-long company building routable, useful maps, getting people from point A to point B, running updates, running fixes, those types of things. So they are like the most experienced digital map maker, I think, on the team. I guess that's subjective, but that's kind of where this is going. It's like everyone's going to bring it to the table. It's run through Linux. So now, and it's pretty well funded, and there's not a whole lot of staff that are working on this right now. The way the whole project works is like Linux has a couple people there at the foundation that are keeping the project going. But then everyone who joins this Overture is, donating, data and staff people to the project to kind of keep it going together. I can't assure you that it's not going away, but I can't imagine just all of a sudden they're like, oh, we don't need maps anymore. Let's get rid of that project, because they're, as you know, they're becoming more and more and more and more ingrained in everything that we do. And this pedestrian is the next kind of frontier.
Well, thank you so much, Chad.
No
Is there
problem.
anything from the ether? Let's see. I'm not 100% sure. Looks good. All right. Thanks for joining us. Happy birthday to your sister. See.
Thank you. It's her birthday today. I'll call her right after this.
Excellent. All right.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.